Hello and welcome to the Writing for Screens live Ask Me Almost Anything and Writing in Public project. Hey, Glenn Gers, writing for screens every day, Monday through Friday if I can. I am here at 3 p.m. Pacific Standard Time working on a project showing you how to write a pilot from rough idea through an outline and maybe even a script. Let's see how it goes. I'm going to do about 20 minutes every day, but at the same time, I'm here to answer questions if you have them. If you are watching this on video and not live, please feel free to ask a question anyway. Just put it on writingforscreens.com, contact me, or write in the chat here in YouTube. It will get to me directly. Let's get right to writing. You may be wondering why there's an endless series of neighbors' gardeners using machinery right outside the window. I don't know. It just seems like they've scheduled it so that every day at 3 o'clock they can be running a lawnmower or something. All right, let's get into this. Yesterday, we were talking about the concept of the locations being meaningful, that you choose a couple of key locations which have an emotional weight and a thematic weight in a story. There will be a place that is the dangerous place or the place where someone goes to be tested. There will be a safe place or a place that reveals what they are like. And I recognize that the home of the dead podcaster, the murder victim, is going to be one of those places. And as I began to think about that, first of all, I thought, we got to name this person. It's Madeline's ex. It's a big part of Madeline's character. So therefore, even though he's going to die right away, we need to know who this person is. And that will start by giving him a name, which I have not yet done. But when I thought about that, oh, he's going to die right away, I began to put together some pieces. And this is a really important part of the writing process, is you throw down a lot of ideas. In my outline, I had the podcaster is going to die at the beginning, somewhere early in the story, but then also meet the serial killer case. The story of the podcast is the story of investigating an unsolved crime. So I have that down like a couple pages in, but the truth is, that's what the podcast is about. Why not start with that? It's a great hooky opening to start with the mystery, with the case, with an element of fear. And at the same time, if we are watching the podcaster make this podcast or do this podcast, we're going to get to understand the layer of podcasting or trying to outsource, to crowdsource investigations, unsolved mysteries, is also woven into that same scene. And that's one of the best things you can do, is if you can have a scene do more than one thing at the same time. We're meeting the podcaster, who's going to be very important because he tells us a lot about Madeline, one of our main characters, but we're also setting up the crime, which is going to be is going to provoke the serial killer to come after them. So we're going to see the biggest threat. We're actually introducing that. And at the same time, we get the story started because at the end of this opening sequence, the podcaster is going to die. So this is a real case of combining things as much as possible, putting as many possible pieces together into single scenes, making a scene do more than one thing. It's sort of the hallmark of good screenwriting, is that no scene just does one thing. Or not no scene, but very few scenes. The best scenes do more than one thing. All right. So I am moving this into the opening sequence. As we see podcaster podcaster, podcasting. Good. This is a good start. We have done a good thing. Yeah. One scene doing two jobs. I cannot stress enough. Look through your outline and say, is there a way that this could happen in that other scene? This thing that you need to get into one that you right now have as a scene by itself. Can you put that into another scene? Okay, so now we have moved to name the damn podcaster. Let's just do this because he's going to be important. He's part of Madeline's story. So let's go to the overview. And just for the moment, podcaster, dead podcaster, guy. I think it's fair. We don't really need that. We're going to call him, what do we call him? George, for now. Doesn't matter. It's going to change. We just need to start with George. So now, find podcaster and replace with George. Replace all. Okay. The dead George. Podcaster. Okay. And then in the outline, we need to do that same thing. Podcaster. Replace all. The George dies. This is one of those things about replace all. Now and then, you gotta tinker with it. Okay, George dies. Poisoned. A minor, true crime, George. Oops. All right. Good work. We have accomplished something. We have named the damn podcaster. So this is good stuff. The question of what was their marriage life? Assuming that this location is going to become central, it is revealing of the life she had, the life she left. And boy, do we not know anything about this. At the moment, I'm just going to tack this stuff into Madeline because, there we go. What is the story of Madeline's marriage? This is really the important question. This is what it's all about. It seems to me like if this location was where she used to live, that might be very revealing about her, especially having her back there. Or it could be that it's a new place, how far the podcaster has fallen from the life she was in. She's still in that life, and he has gone to a different place, and his stuff is very evocative. I don't know. I tend to think that place. And if she left, that means something too. She left him. Why did she leave him? At least initially, I've been thinking she actually leaves him because of his obsession with this true crime hunting. And so that's stuff that we're going to have to work on over time. And this is important. Let's get to this right now, which is you need to learn to trust the process. I've been doing this a long time. And so I have learned that even though I have no idea who Madeline is, what her marriage is, and this is the central character. This is Norman and Madeline are the story, and I have to have faith that I am going to figure out who Madeline is because I have a couple of bits of things that I believe will work. I believe that a comic thriller, romantic comedy story about these two people, that's beginning to click for me. I know that can work, and therefore, the fact that I haven't figured out exactly how it can work, that's okay. I can live with that. That may take weeks. to come up with the right thing. I will try different paths. I will have the clunky name George will become something more distinctive. He will become a real person. She will become a real person. One of the hardest things when you're starting out as a writer is to get used to this concept, used to the idea that the process will work. You don't have to even trust that the project is good. You don't have to, you can say, I wonder if this is going to be a good script. You cannot worry about that as long as you learn that the process is good. The steps that you take to build the script are the same for every script. And once you learn to trust that, the actual scary stuff of not knowing what you're going to write becomes comfortable. And you actually begin to say, all right, this is frustrating. I know that I can't answer a lot of questions because I have not done the work on Madeline, but I know that I will. And so I can build piece by piece and trust the process. That's my point. Trust the process. Nobody gets it all at once. No one writes a whole script all at once. Nobody figures out all the puzzles all at once. It's a process. It takes time and it takes steps. It's a long road. And oh, somebody liked that. Somebody's actually watching. 2 people are watching. Hey guys, please say hi in the comments if you get a chance. Anyway, so yeah, nobody gets this stuff right all at once. I do not know who Madeline is yet, but I can live with that. Let's get back into it. Because the other person that we don't know enough about, and I haven't made a decision about yet, is Zach, the villain, the monster. And I was just writing some stuff down about him, and one of the things I was thinking was, what was his plan? Like, did he actually kill this minor podcaster? It's not like he was killing a star, which would have been stupid because that would have been dangerous. Everyone would have been looking at it. He killed this person because he could get away with it because they were nobody. And in fact, it was the murder that makes them valuable. Ooh, this is important. Let's write that down. It is, in fact, the murder that makes George interesting to the public. Like a dead painter's painting. You know, the famous story of an artist who can't sell their work, and then they die, especially if they die bizarrely or dramatically or murdered by someone they know. That becomes like all of a sudden their work is more valuable. That's what Zach is doing. Hey, cool. All right. I'm just going to briefly say hello to Michael. Hey, thank gosh. I am glad to see you. And Stana is here too. Stana, cool to see you. Thank you. I am so glad to have you guys here live. Let's have fun. Please comment if you have anything to say. I love to know about it. Right now, this is key. This is so crucial about Zach. So let's find some Zach stuff. Outline, no. Overview, yes. We are going to find Zach. And we are going to there we go. All right. So now he is all about attention. That is his thing. Everything that he's doing is because he wants attention in order to become influential. He wants to be an influencer. So we have just learned something very important about Zach, our villain, which means we've learned something very important about our story because that's going to be his goal. His theme, in a way, is attention. It's that's it. I mean, if I had to find one thing to say about each character, I know that Norman is a journalist, and I know that Zach wants attention, and I still don't know about Madeline, but I have some faith. We'll get there. All right, so let's get back to our notes. Um, did the killer? Does the killer identify himself? Do we find out who he is? Um, that's actually a question I'm going to work on a little later, because there's certain things where I'll ask myself a question and truthfully I have no clue. I don't know what to do with it yet, and I'm trying to, in these podcasts, work with something that I know is meaningful and that I can teach from, because otherwise this would spill into a 3-hour extravaganza of what working really is like, which is you sort of puzzle and hem and haw way too long for anyone to sit and watch you. So what I'm going to do is it's sort of like in the old cooking shows. Let's talk straight for a second. The way I'm going to be doing this is on old television cooking shows. They would do them in front of a live audience, and the way they would do it is like if they had to roast a chicken, which takes an hour and a half, they would start it an hour and a half before one of them. Then they would show the preparation. They would put it into one oven, open the oven next to it, and pull out the other one and say, since I knew where I was going with this, I have already roasted this one for an hour and a half. You don't have to sit for an hour and a half and watch it. That's kind of what we're going to be doing with this. Because the actual process, it takes a long time. No kidding. Don't be fooled by the stories of somebody writing a script in a few weeks. You don't write a script in a few weeks. It takes a long time. Once you get really good, and if you get really lucky, and if you're basically working in something where it's all coming together in your mind, yeah, maybe you could do it in a few weeks. But the truth is, most of the people who did that, they were working it out, planning it, going through it in their mind, essentially outlining it, whether or not they wrote the outline, for a long time before they did that blitz of writing. Okay, so let's talk. I made a note to myself because this is just true. I noticed that once again I have set up a story with main characters caught between irrational others. This is just a thing. You're going to find this happens as you write a bunch of things. You write the same stuff over and over, whether or not you mean to. I tend to like stories where the heroes are people caught between irrational, frightening, difficult forces. And I notice whether or not I intend it, I do that. Question from Stana. Do you establish the ending before you start the outline? If at all possible, yes. The way I like to work is until I have some sense of the ending, there is no way to make any choices. So in this case, I started with this. The premise was there was a group of online web sleuths, online detectives in a community of amateur detectives who got together, as this is a real thing they do, to solve unsolved mysteries, to work on crimes. And my thought was, what if in finding some cold case serial killer, they actually provoked the cold case serial killer to come after them? And that was my premise. That was all I had, that 2 sentences. And the other thing I had was I knew I wanted it to be, weirdly, a romantic comedy. That this thriller concept was a perfect setting for a romantic comedy. What I did not have was the ending. What I came up with, as I began to think about it, was that one of the people in the group who was trying to solve the crime actually had done the crime, that they were the killer, and that they had done it to call attention or to get to make their investigation more popular, because this is a very popular genre of true crime podcasts and documentaries and books. So the answer is, I believe it is almost impossible to write without knowing the ending. Now, if you do it, you can write as much as you can, as far as you can. Pretty soon, you're going to come to an ending. You're going to say, I want this to end with this person getting what they want, or I want this to end with this person not getting what they want. And if you are the sort of person who writes without knowing the ending, once you have written the first draft of the ending, you're going to have to go back and adjust most of what you've written to fit that. And I personally have a hard time doing that, because if I really like something I did in the first act, but it doesn't fit the new ending, I become panic-stricken and morally conflicted. So I try and avoid that by making my ending choices early as possible. All right. And so this is sort of what I was talking about. Working backwards. In other words, I know that Zach, our friendly romantic comedy advisor, is actually the killer. So one of the things I thought about that is I want Zach to not be obviously the killer all the way through. So we have to like him. We have to think he's um, okay. Um, and so I started to do some work on what would make us like him. Question from Michael. Since Zach is an attention seeker and a murderer, does he show narcissistic behavior through the script? Not sure if that was mentioned. And the answer is yes. Although, and yes, indeed, work smarter, not harder. Does he show it? Yes. But what the tricky thing, and this is one of the things that you want to do with a twist, is you want to lay in the elements, the setup, but not make it clear where it's going. We know that Zach is an attention seeker because he is hungrily pursuing this podcast. He will have a different reason for that. He will say he is doing it in order to get justice or to empower the crowd. I haven't quite figured out what he says, but the one thing he won't say is his true motive. So we have him take an action which could have two motives. He's advertising a noble one. The reveal is the narcissism. So the answer is, does he show it? Yes. Do we know that it's leading to murder? No. So one of the ways that I wanted to get Zach to be likable is I realized I'd come up with this idea that Norman is a pissed off retired journalist who's angry at all these amateurs who are saying, "Oh, I'm a journalist," when they're just bloggers. And I thought if Zach is the spokesman for the amateur journalist and Norman is the spokesman for professional journalism with standards and some form of hierarchy, that's a conflict. It's a conflict with a philosophical conflict that's also a personal conflict. That's a good way to get ideas into your script. You give the people those ideas and let them act them out. Let them act from them. So what I thought was, okay, so we're going to have Zach and Norman argue over journalism. But it'll be really sweet if Zach is impressed with Norman. If Zach says, "Oh my God, you're a professional. You worked for a real newspaper. That's so cool. We're alike." And Norman is just like, "Oh, we're not alike. We are opposite ends of the spectrum. So stop praising me." I think that's a funny dynamic. So I just wanted to make a note of that when it came to me, because originally I thought Zach was kind of smarmy and too proud of himself. But that's kind of unlikable and would make his villainy less of a surprise. So by doing this, by having him be actually kind of sweet about it, I think that that will be, as I say, disarming. Also, maybe Norman has been lurking until now. That was the other thing. I had conceived of the character of Norman as part of the group because he was essentially embedding himself in a group of crackpots that he had no respect for in order to write a nasty book about them. But this whole embedding thing, I think that there isn't going to be room for that because it really happens before the story begins. So I thought it's actually easier if he's been lurking. He's in the group, but he doesn't really have that much to do, because you can do that. You can join an online community and not really contribute much, but soak in all the atmosphere you want so that you can write your nasty book. So therefore, in establishing Norman, let's go to meet Norman. Where are you, Norman? Meet Norman. Meet Norman. Ah, lurking in the group. I already copied it in. Cool. Because he is writing. Okay, very good. Moving right along. Ah, now this is a big problem. I have not solved this one yet. If we've got an unsolved serial killer string from the past, very distinctive, this poisoner uses a certain poison or a certain modus operandi, which they have to do to make the podcast work and to make the whole story work. It has to be like the Boston Strangler who always used the pantyhose around the necks, or the idea of a Jack the Ripper who uses his very distinctive style of murder and then even advertises it. That's a real key to the serial killer mystique. So the point is, if we've got this clear mystique and then a podcaster is murdered, having been working on the case of this murderer, and they die by that method, there is no doubt that the police are going to take that seriously. That they're going to say, either the serial killer did it, or there's a copycat. But one way or another, someone's going to pay attention to that, which sort of undercuts Zach's outsider, we're going to solve a thing that nobody cares about. So I need to figure out why the police aren't on this case. That is a real issue. And it's going to have to happen pretty soon. Okay. So I'm just putting it in as a question. Why are the police not on this case? When it is the clear MO of a serial killer who was being investigated by the victim. All right. I do not know the answer to that. I'm going to actually see, can I highlight that? Can I make that up? Let me see what I can do here. Yeah, okay, cool. There we go. I like to leave questions in a bright pink so that I cannot ignore them. Oh wow, we've gone a full half hour. I am going to stop soon because I don't like these videos, the video versions of these live streams, to go too long. So I'm going to stop. I am going to say thank you guys so much for watching live, Michael and Stana, and to all of you out there who are watching this in recorded history, thank you. I will see you tomorrow when we will do more.